part that it has its own is so strong immunity system which corrects the all diseases. But with the passage of time, the homeopathy came, the Ayurvedic came, and then of course the modern system, which is the allopathy, which took a boost during after the rather industrial revolution, and then of course after First World War, and then Second World War. But after First World War, it was like more of the allopathic system which was developed to give instant relief or to improve instant immunity towards the disease. And that was, in fact, started. And that was more an outcome of wars, of pandemics, or endemics, or other sort of natural crisis. But today, I don't know what is going to happen. The commercialization has become so heavy that everything which we think of or talk about has become a supplement to improve upon the human immunity system. And that is where everything which is probiotic, which I think, which I personally think hits or improves the immunity, is something which is very important. I'll stop with the words because the time is less, and I'll request Madam Neerja to come in and talk about it. She'll be able to throw more light on how this probiotic, which now of course is a replacement for yogurts and for all other things, is taken as sweetness sometimes by the people, and sometimes to be very more health conscious to improve upon the immunity system. With these words, I rest with it, and I'll request Dr. Neerja to please take over from here. Thank you very much.
Dr. Pallavi, thank you, sir. Dr. Pallavi, I request you to introduce Dr. Neerja.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Ram sir. Thank you, Sood sir. Sood sir always stand by our side to guide and support us in every situation. Sood sir, thank you so much to enlighten us. Ram sir, thank you so much. Before we are moving ahead, I would, as Ram sir said, I introduce our eminent dignified guest speaker. Ma'am has more than 16 years of experience and has worked in various organizations like Ranbaxy, DCIL. She is involved in development, planning, and implementation of scientific programs, including clinical trials. She is associated with the Asian Federation of Societies for the Lactic Acid Bacteria. Ma'am has several publications of national and international repute. Once again, I bid a warm welcome to the ma'am and hand over the mic to Ram sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you for bestowing your time to us. And now we will welcome you to start your talk, ma'am. Please. Ma'am, your voice is not audible.
Ma'am?
Your mic is muted, ma'am.
Yes. Now can you hear me?
Yeah, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you see my presentation as well?
We can see your screen.
Okay.
Yeah, we can see it now.
You can see it now? Okay. Thank you so much, Sood sir, Dr. Ram sir. It was really such a pleasure and privilege to be a part of this webinar. And like you rightly said, behind every cloud there is a silver lining. And the silver lining in this case, in this pandemic of COVID-19, is our immunity. And therefore the talk around immunity and the talk around nutrition, around lifestyle, all to do with immunity has never been more than it has been in these days. And you know, we all know that the gold standard for building our immune system is a well-balanced diet, a healthy lifestyle, but also our intestine, which is home to the largest number of immune cells, is also very, very important when it comes to building our immunity. And in that context, the topic of my talk today is probiotics and immunity, the link. So thank you, sir, for this very nice opportunity. I'm very happy to be interacting with the biotechnology students and faculty. And I'd just like to say that I have tried to keep my presentation very simple. And if students or any of the faculty members, if you have a question, you can just ask me anytime during the presentation. I really want this to be an interactive session and not just one-way communication. So I'd be very happy if you can interrupt me at any point and, ask me a question. So with that, I'll just start my presentation. So this is like we just heard Sudhir telling us that hypocrites, he basically uh, he had four basic pillars which he worked on, and what he really said some 2500 years back was that death sits in the bowel, and a bad digestion is the root of all evil. I think all of us know that, that the intestine, which is the site for digestion of food, absorption of nutrients, it is one of the most important organs of the human body, and but highly neglected. So we have read in school that the intestine includes the small intestine and the large intestine, and the small intestine is responsible for digestion of food, absorption of nutrients, and the large intestine is involved in removal of all the undigested food or the waste material. Probably what is very unique, and for biotechnology students and faculty, I think this is something that you all may already know, that we are more microbes than human cells. We harbor 100 trillion microbes in the human body, which are present in almost every part of the human body, including the mouth, the pharynx, the skin, the urogenital tract, the intestine, the stomach. Everywhere we have microorganisms. And these microorganisms are 10 times more than the human cells of the body. Initially, it was believed that the placenta or the amniotic fluid, they were sterile. But now we know that both the placenta and the amniotic fluid are bathed in microbes, and you have microbes in the internal breast and you have microbes in the vagina. But the largest number of these microorganisms are found in the intestine. So as you can see this, the stomach, the small intestine and the large intestine, the number of microorganisms keep on increasing as we go down. So in the stomach, you have the lowest number of organisms, that is just 10 to the power 3 CFU. CFU is nothing but cell-forming unit per ml. And this is because of the gastric juices, which almost kill or destroy all microorganisms that enter into the stomach. But as we go down into the duodenum, the jejunum, the ileum, and then into the colon, the environment becomes more favorable, both in terms of pH and temperature, and therefore there is more growth of these microbes. And then the colon, because you have huge amount of substrate availability, you have numbers ranging to 10 to the power 12 CFU, cell forming unit per ml. So that is the length and breadth of microorganisms which are found in the intestine. Now, the next question is, what are microorganisms doing in the intestine? The most important, of course, is for digestion of food, which the body cannot digest, like your resistant starch, non-digestible fibers. All of these are digested by the microorganisms that are found in the intestine. They also create a very favorable environment in the intestine for better absorption of calcium, iron, magnesium, and other nutrients. Most importantly, when they ferment the non-digestible fibers, they convert them into short-chain fatty acids like acetate and butyrate, which are a major source of energy for the large intestine. Now, another very fascinating fact is that more than 70% of the body's immune system is found in the intestine. And therefore, it is also referred to as the largest immune organ of the human body. That is why when I was talking about immunity, we spoke about diet, we spoke about lifestyle. And because 70% of the immune system is found in the gut, and the gut is the largest immune organ of the human body, the intestine becomes equally important when we're talking about immunity. Now, these microorganisms which are present in the intestine, they're absolutely critical for augmenting both the innate as well as the acquired immune responses. They have unique mechanisms by which they interact with the immune cells and therefore, induce and allow the proper growth and development of the immune system. Another very important function of these microbes is they help to maintain an intact gut barrier. So as you can see here, I've given an example of a brick wall. As you can see here, this is a very healthy intestinal wall where the cells of the intestine are tightly held together by tight junction proteins. There is enough secretion of mucus. But if that were not to be so, then you have perforations in the intestine through which you have your bacterial bacterial strains as well as their toxins, which can translocate through the intestinal lumen into the circulatory system and cause a lot of disease. So one very important role of these microorganisms is that they help to maintain an intact gut barrier. This is a very, very interesting slide. It compares a conventional mice to that of a germ-free mice 7 weeks after birth. So germ-free mice are mice which have absolutely no microbes, and conventional mice are mice with the regular microorganisms. As you can see here, that the germ-free mice have a very poorly developed immune system. Now, the immune system of the intestine is known as the gut-associated lymphoid tissue. So they have a very poorly developed immune system. Again, we know that all the mucosal linings in the body have secretory IgA, which is your first line of defense against viruses and other infections. So the secretory IgA levels are very, very low. Your T cells are very low. And therefore, these mice are extremely vulnerable to infection. So the minute you bring out these mice into an open environment, the germ-free mice, they are eventually die because they are unable to fight infection because of a very, very poorly developed immune system. So this tells us that the microorganisms are absolutely critical for building our immune system. And now we know that we have the microbiota gut-brain axis. So the gut microbes are linked to the brain through the vagus nerve, and it appears that there is a bidirectional signaling between the GI tract and the brain through the vagus nerve. And these microbes may be involved in the etiology of several metabolic and mental dysfunctions and disorders like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease. There's a lot of new research which is coming out which shows that there is a link between microbes and all these neurological diseases. But now it's a chicken and egg situation. We do not know what came first, whether the disease is because of the change in the microbes or whether the microbes change because of the disease. However, there is a link, and now we have something known as the gut-brain axis. Now, what happens is normally we have a very stable intestinal microbiota. We have no more numbers of the beneficial microbes and we have lesser number of the harmful microbes, and ensuring that we lead a healthy life. However, changes in these microbes start right from pregnancy and continue through birth and infancy. Studies have shown that just the mode of delivery, a vaginally delivered baby will have a much healthier microbiome as compared to a baby who's delivered by C-sec. Similarly, a formula-fed baby will have an unhealthy microbiome as compared to a baby who is breastfed. And breastfed babies have a much better microbiome, much healthier microbiome as compared to formula-fed babies. Now, as you can see in this slide, I'm giving you an example of bifidobacteria. This is a representative of a beneficial bacteria. But as you can see that throughout life, throughout the lifespan, including early life, adulthood, and old age, there is a reduction in the number of bifidobacteria. There is a beneficial bacteria, and as the numbers of bifidobacteria decrease, you have an increased risk of allergies, you have increased risk of obesity, diabetes, and even cancer. So this imbalance in the microbiota is known as dysbiosis. And this imbalance, where the harmful microbes are much higher in numbers as compared to the beneficial microbes, is linked to several disorders, including inflammatory bowel disease, metabolic syndrome, allergies, and also infectious diseases. So this is where probiotics comes in. Probiotics, the word means for life. And these are microorganisms which are scientifically tested to reach the intestine alive, to improve the environment and increase your beneficial microbes and decrease the harmful microorganisms, and therefore ensure a healthy digestive system and stronger immunity. So these are live microorganisms which are administered in numbers of more than 1 billion. They're consumed in numbers of more than 1 billion and give a scientifically proven health benefit on the host. So a probiotic is nothing but it is a bacteria which is scientifically tested for its ability to reach the intestine alive, and therefore it has to be resistant to gastric acid and bile, and it should reach the target site, which could be the small intestine or the large intestine, in large numbers of more than 1 billion CFU per ml of the content. Then they must be tested. The probiotic bacteria needs to be tested both for safety and efficacy in animal models. When it comes to safety, it's assessed for subacute, acute, and chronic toxicity of ingestion of large amounts of that probiotic. And efficacy studies are also done in animal models. Then the safety is evaluated in humans, evaluated for efficacy in humans, and then the effective dose of the probiotic strain is determined, and this is formulated into a probiotic product, which is then finally labeled. Now, how do these probiotic organisms act? So they have several mechanisms by which they can change the gut microbes of the intestine. Most importantly, they help in bioconversion of non-digestible foods into short-chain fatty acids. And these short-chain fatty acids help to decrease the pH of the intestinal lumen, which then allows the growth of beneficial microbes. These probiotics also compete for nutrients in the intestine. They compete for receptor spaces on the intestinal epithelium and therefore exclude or inhibit the growth of harmful pathogenic organisms. They also produce antimicrobial products like bacteriocins or defensins, which have the ability to directly inhibit the growth of harmful pathogenic organisms. They also improve your gut barrier function and prevent translocation of toxins into the circulatory system. Many probiotics can produce anti-inflammatory molecules and therefore help in immune stimulation. So there are several mechanisms by which probiotics can influence the immune system. And this probiotic, the word we have heard about, a lot of people are talking about probiotics, but you must remember that probiotics are backed by a lot of scientific data. So this is a review which was done, which showed that, when you consume a probiotics in the third trimester, then the microbes that the baby acquires are normally beneficial microbes. There is higher amount of IgA, T regulatory cells, and also the gut barrier is much more intact as compared to those who are not consuming a probiotic. Then this is a very interesting study. This is just to give you an idea of the kind of scientific data that is built around probiotics. Now, these are 84 randomized controlled trials. They were studied for the benefit of probiotics in different GI disorders like pouchitis, irritable bowel syndrome, antibiotic-associated diarrhea. And the meta-analysis showed, this was published in PLOS ONE, showed that probiotics had a positive, significant effect across all 8 GI disorders. Then there's another study which was a Cochrane review. This is very relevant in times of this pandemic because it evaluated the efficacy of a probiotic in reducing the risk of respiratory infections. This was again 12 randomized controlled trials, more than 3,000 participants, which included children, adults, and elderly. And the study showed that probiotics were better than the placebo in reducing the number of participants who got respiratory infection, in the duration of the respiratory infection, and also antibiotic use. There are some studies which have shown that probiotics can help to balance the immune responses, the Th1 and Th2 response, and therefore could find some role in allergies. Then there is this World Allergy Organization, which has brought out guidelines for use of probiotics, where probiotics are recommended in pregnant women at high risk for having an allergic child, probiotics in women who are breastfed infants at high risk of developing allergy, and probiotics in infants at developing a high risk of allergy. So these are guidelines. There is also some data which suggests that there is a link between COVID-19 and the GI tract because viral nucleic acid was found in the fecal samples and the anal swabs of COVID-19 patients. And also the ACE2 receptor, which is the binding domain of coronavirus. This is abundant in the lungs as well as the gut, and it suggests that there is a link between the gut and the lung, suggesting a gut-lung crosstalk. Also, patients who have respiratory infections generally have GI disorder, gut-related disorders, and China's National Health Commission has suggested the use of probiotics to COVID-19 patients to balance the intestinal microbiota and prevent secondary infections. There are more studies about the benefits of, about the link between COVID-19 and gut microbiota, and also about the benefits of probiotics in COVID-19, because they help to improve and maintain balance of the intestinal microbiota. They exert beneficial effects through local immunity and systemic immunity, and they also produce anti-inflammatory cytokines like IL-10, TNF, and interferon alpha. They decrease the risk of respiratory infections, pneumonia, and could help in reducing the risk of respiratory infections in middle-aged and elderly people. Now, when I talk about probiotics, you must remember here that probiotic benefits are strain specific. Every probiotic bacteria will give you a very defined scientific health benefit. Therefore, when we talk about probiotics, generally, you cannot assume that what one probiotic is doing for you, the other will do as well. Therefore, the probiotic benefits are very, very strain specific. And I'm giving you the example of one particular strain, that is Lactobacillus casei shirota, which was discovered way back in 1930. And this was launched in Yakult in 1935. So Yakult is a probiotic drink which contains 6.5 billion of this particular strain of bacteria, Lactobacillus casei shirota. And this has more than 100 human studies and scientific heritage of more than 80 years, this particular strain of bacteria. And I'm just going through some of the basic studies that have been done. One is that this is a homofermentative organism, so it produces lactic acid as an end product of fermentation, which helps in improving gut motility, decreasing potentially harmful bacteria, and optimizing the immune system. So this bacteria works in the small intestine. It reaches your small intestine live in large numbers, and there it produces lactic acid as an end product of fermentation and helps in your gut motility and decreasing your harmful bacteria, which in turn therefore reduce the harmful substances, improve bowel function, and reduce risk of infections, including cancer. So I'm taking you through this one study which was done in India. This was done in 2007. It is a large community-based study which was done with this particular strain of bacteria at a slum setting in Calcutta. This was conducted by the National Institute of Cholera and Enteric Diseases in Calcutta. This is the slum area. As you can see here, this is Ward 66. And this was a very large community-based study because it was done on 3,758 children, of which 1,894 were in the probiotic group and 1,864 in the nutrient group. They were given a probiotic drink for a period of 12 weeks and followed up for another 12 weeks. So these are some of the pictures of the study where the children were made to consume the probiotic regularly. And what was observed was there was a 14% protective efficacy in the probiotic group for preventing acute diarrhea in children in Calcutta. And given that Calcutta is a city where you have compromised hygiene and sanitation, these children in the age group of 1 to 5 years, they suffer from at least 4 to 6 episodes of diarrhea every year. So diarrhea can be very debilitating. You know, it leads to dehydration, and then you have to get into the hospital, you have to get your glucose and all of that. And so therefore, this was a significant finding when it comes to a study which was done in India. There's another very interesting study which has shown that consumption of this strain of bacteria can reduce the risk of respiratory infections. This was done on athletes. Athletes have excellent physical stamina, but they have weak immunity because they do such vigorous exercise that they tend to inhale more numbers of bacteria and viruses, which then cause respiratory infections. So this is a study which was a 16-week study and showed that consuming the probiotic for 16 weeks reduced the incidence of respiratory infections, and there was an increase in the salivary IgA levels in the athletes who consumed the probiotic. Again, there are studies which have shown that consumption of this particular probiotic can help to increase your natural killer cell activity. Now, natural killer cells are very important part of our immune system, which protect us from cancer as well as from viral infections. And therefore, these are studies which have shown that people who have low NK cell activity, when they consume the probiotic for a period of 3 weeks, the NK cell activity increased. Again, here, this is a study which shows that people who have a high NK cell activity, they are at a lower risk of cancer. Now, these are just examples of studies I've given you to tell you that every probiotic that is there available in the market should be backed with its own scientific dossier of studies. And therefore, every probiotic will give you a strain-specific benefit, which is very different from what another probiotic strain may give you. Now, let's translate all the science into practice. What you have as probiotics are drugs, you have foods, you have animal feed, but your traditional fermented foods, which also have lactic acid bacteria, they do not classify as true probiotics simply because they do not have a defined strain of bacteria. When it comes to a probiotic product, it's very important that it should be safe for consumption because you're consuming 1 billion bacteria regularly for its health benefit. It must be stable in the carrier matrix, whatever the medium, maybe a vegetable juice, a dairy product, it should be stable in that matrix. It should survive through the intestine and give you a scientifically proven health benefit. Then the carrier matrix is very, very important because the synergistic effect of the probiotic strain and the matrix becomes very, very important. It should maintain its functionality in whatever matrix it is being added to. So dairy is a preferred medium simply because it gives you nutrition and expresses the probiotic. The low pH of the dairy food or the dairy product helps in buffering stomach acidity and ensures viability of the probiotic bacteria. Also, short shelf life encourages, or refrigeration encourages, the survival in the product and the whole compliance of food versus pill. So you have a lot of probiotic products. You have those with the starter. You have those which are only fermented with the probiotic. And these are some of the probiotic foods in India. And like I said, each food will give you a very, very different health benefit because each food contains a different strain of bacteria. So the global probiotic market is now growing very fast. It is pegged to touch 63 billion by 2022. And this is only because of the growing interest in the human microbes and in digestive health and in immunity. So when India came up, there was a lot of probiotic products which came into India in 2007, 2008. And that is when the Indian Council of Medical Research and the Department of Biotechnology brought out guidelines for probiotics in food. But guidelines are not mandatory, and the Food Safety Standards Authority of India brought out the nutraceutical regulations in which probiotic is a very important category. This was brought out in 2016. And as you can see here, now they have 30 species of probiotics which can be added to different foods in India. They also specify that every food product must contain 10 to the power 8 CFU per recommended serving size per day for it to classify as a probiotic product. They have a schedule where you can only use those probiotic organisms which are indicated in this schedule 7. No other organism can be used, and also genetically modified organisms cannot be used in probiotic foods. So the label of the probiotic food is also very important. This is brought out by the Food Safety Standards Authority of India, where you must mention the term, the word probiotic food, the complete name of the bacteria, the genus, the species, the strain, the live number of bacteria or the viable numbers at the end of shelf life, not only at the time of manufacturing, but also at the end of shelf life, it should have the same number of bacteria, the recommended serving size, and because they're probiotic foods, you have to mention not for medicinal use or any other precautions that you need to take when you're consuming the probiotic food. So with that, I come to the end of my presentation, where where the take home is that a balanced diet, regular exercise, and a healthy lifestyle are the cornerstone for strong immunity and good health. In addition, the intestine, which harbors about 70% of the body's immune system, is a very crucial determinant of immunity. Intestinal bacteria are critical for the proper growth and development of the immune system, and harmful bacteria in the intestine, they weaken the immune system, and probiotics, which increase the beneficial bacteria in the intestine, could help to build immunity and reduce the risk of infection. So I end with this quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson, that what lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us. And I'm talking about these 100 trillion microbes that make the human being. So thank you very much for your time and for your very patient listening. And now I'd be very happy to take any questions that you all have.
If you have any query, any question, ma'am is happy to take the question. Any one of you? Thank you.
Ma'am, I would like to ask one question. You mentioned a study about COVID-19 and probiotic bacteria.
Yes, yes.
So what is the study about, and what is their
It's
conclusion?
just a basic review where they have shown that probiotic can help in COVID-19 patients by improving the balance of the intestinal microbiota, by producing anti-inflammatory cytokines. We know that there is a cytokine storm when you have COVID and there is an inflammation. So they can help in producing anti-inflammatory cytokines and help in, you know, uh, reducing some of the symptoms. And also they have shown that there are studies with probiotics where probiotics have reduced the risk of respiratory infections as well as pneumonia, especially in the elderly. So they feel that probiotics could be a welcome addition to all the other immune boosters that you're giving as a part of the daily diet.
And
So
ma'am,
it was a review.
what is the general mechanism of action of the probiotic, and how does it?
So probiotics have different mechanisms. So like I showed you in that one particular slide, there are probiotics which can basically, they play a very important role in colonization resistance. That is, they inhibit the growth of harmful bacteria by competing for nutrients or receptors on the intestinal wall. Then there are probiotics which can produce bacteriocins and have antimicrobial properties. They can inhibit the growth of harmful pathogens. There are other probiotics which produce anti-inflammatory cytokines, and there are probiotics which can increase the activity of your natural killer cells, which are important to protect you from cancers as well as viral infections. So different probiotic strains have different mechanisms of action. But by and large,
So you mean to say that they have a range of functions and not just
not just one function. No, not just one function. They have a range of functions. For example, Lactobacillus casei shirota strain. This has a lipopolysaccharide peptidoglycan cell wall, and it is the cell wall which is responsible for the immune modulatory function. So we have studies where we have digested the cell wall, and the probiotic does not give you the same benefit. So it is that particular cell structure. So some strains of probiotic bacteria have villi, some have flagella, some have an LPA. It's different surface structures which give you that immune modulatory function.
And ma'am, second thing which I would like to ask, what is the role of a biotechnologist in this probiotic industry?
Big role of biotechnologist. We are talking about microbes. We are talking about bacteria. So that is all biotechnology eventually. Eventually, I think we will have genetically modified organisms. There are some studies which I have seen that Lactococcus lactis has been, a gene for interleukin 10 has been introduced in Lactococcus lactis, which is very effective in producing interleukin 10 in the intestine and thereby reducing inflammation. So eventually vaccines are, there could be vaccine delivery through these probiotic organisms. You could have genetically modified organisms. You can have probiotic foods. I think there's a big role for biotechnologists in this probiotic industry.
And what kind of biotechnologists are required for this kind of industry?
So, I mean, basically, I'm a PhD in biotechnology myself, and I got into the probiotic industry. If you really go to see, the human microbiome is doing wonders. I mean, what I shared today in today's presentation is nothing at all compared to the kind of science that is evolving. There are studies which have shown that the gut microbes are playing such an important role in almost every aspect of health, including obesity, diabetes, your brain function. So isolating these microbes, culturing them, finding out the kind of microbes you harbor in different disease conditions is going to be very, very important. I think the gut microbes are going to be a diagnostic tool in the days to come, where you will see that this particular bacteria is reduced when you have obesity, or is reduced when you have an irritable bowel syndrome or an IBD. So I think it's going to play a very, very important role. And the gut microbiome is a science by itself. So biotechnologists can, take the science to yet another level if they decide to go into this area. So what we also have is we have an international symposium every year, which is organized by the Gut Microbiota and Probiotics Foundation. This is the non-commercial arm of Yakult. And we have experts in the area, and we invite experts every year So next time when we have the symposium, we'll also send you an invite, and you can just, I mean, when you hear to the presentations by some of these expert speakers, you'll understand the kind of science that is evolving around this whole gut microbiome. And so there's
Okay, okay.
a lot of
And does Yakut provide any kind of training for the students, upcoming students, and
Actually, see, we are a, you know, we have a fully automated factory, manufacturing facility, because there is absolutely no human touch. It's a Japanese technology which we have brought into India, and it is fully automated. So therefore, you know, we do not have any such training programs, but we definitely invite you to visit our factory to have a look at how a probiotic is manufactured. And right now, because of the lockdown and because of this entire pandemic, we are having virtual factory tours. So we can organize that for you where you can actually get to see the factory. But we do not have any such training programs, you know, really.
okay? And do you recruit biotechnologists in large numbers, or I would say?
Actually, we are a small company. We are not a very big, large company. So, you know, we do not have that much of requirement for manpower as
Okay.
maybe a larger company would. So, therefore, we do not recruit in large numbers, but we definitely recruit. So,
Okay.
we have a science department where we have about 10 people working in the science department.
Okay.
So, you know, on and off, we do have a need for a biotechnologist, and that's when we recruit them.
And your company is growing in India?
Definitely, definitely growing in India because, you know, as people are becoming more aware about digestive health, about immunity, and the intestine being one of the largest immune organs of the body, people are understanding the benefit of probiotics and they are seeing the difference for themselves. So as they see the difference for themselves, you know, the company is automatically growing.
And so one more last question, ma'am. What
Yes,
traditionally we are used to eating yogurt
yes, yes, yes,
and considering that yogurt is a staple part of our diet,
yes, yes, yes.
and so how does the habits matter when we come to
So,
probiotics?
probiotics are not a replacement for yogurt at all because yogurt gives us all the nutrition, yogurt gives us our proteins, vitamins, minerals, all of that. But yogurt contains lactic acid bacteria which are not scientifically tested for its probiotic properties.
Okay.
So, while yogurt is excellent for nutrition, curd, I mean, we cannot do away with our tradition. So,
Okay.
definitely that is an inherent part of our tradition, but they do not classify as true probiotics. That is the only difference.
So students, if you have any more questions, you can just ask, ma'am. Faculty members can also ask.
A very good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Ma'am, may I please know the recruitment process for your company?
For our company, so basically, when we have a requirement, we submit our requirement to the HR department in our company, and the HR department then goes through a consultant who sends out a list of candidates, and then we recruit them.
So, is there any direct recruitment process also?
Normally not. We don't do a direct recruitment because we want it all to come through the HR. But in case you want, I mean, you are interested, you can send me your CV and we can send the CV to the HR so that when we have our next recruitment, they will keep your CV in mind.
And what are the minimum qualifications you are looking for, ma'am?
Normally, we look at a master's in microbiology or biotechnology.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome. So I hope you all understood the presentation.
Hello, good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Ma'am, I have found some companies, such as some pharmaceutical companies, are manufacturing tablet as
Yes.
a probiotic tablet.
Yes, yes, yes.
And ma'am, your firm is also manufacturing probiotic drink.
Yes.
So, ma'am, what is the effect on a particular tablet form, drink form, other dairy product?
So when you look at a tablet is basically used for treatment of a disease. You know,
Yeah.
So there are a lot of, for instance, antibiotic-associated diarrhea or IBD or IBS. You are given a tablet to treat the disease, and that is given for a limited period of time. When you look at a probiotic food or a drink, you can make it a part of your diet because it is not for treatment of any disease. It is just for improvement of your internal health. So these are foods which are consumed as a part of your diet, and that is medicine which is consumed for treatment of a particular disease.
Ma'am, any particular disease where probiotics have a definite role?
So ulcerative colitis, probiotics have a definite role. And antibiotic-associated diarrhea, probiotics have a definite role. Saccharomyces boulardii is one such yeast which has a definite role in antibiotic-associated diarrhea. Acute diarrhea, rotaviral diarrhea, probiotics have an important role. Infectious diarrhea, probiotics have an important role. So mostly GI disorders, right now the role is very defined. But going forward, I think even in diabetes, even in obesity, even in alcoholic liver disease, we are going to have probiotics with a very defined role. There are a lot of studies which are being undertaken globally, and very soon we'll have enough data which suggests that probiotics can be used in other diseases as well.
And do you have inhalable probiotics also?
Not that I know of.
Okay, because we are talking of black fungus nowadays, and
Yeah, yes.
so anything which can go to the lungs and do something,
Directly.
make
Not,
make make
yeah.
lungs stronger.
Yes. So basically, by and large, these probiotic bacteria, they improve the microbes, and they say that the lungs have their own microorganisms.
Okay.
So improving the composition of the microbes in the gut could probably influence the lungs as well, because there is a gut-lung axis, like they say. And if that were to be true, then how do we know the metabolites could possibly be transmitted to the lungs or being transferred to the lungs? And how it works. The mechanisms are very unclear as of now. But
Okay.
probiotics, by and large, have a defined mechanism. And a definite strain of bacteria will have a definite. For instance, there is a strain of bacteria, Lactobacillus rhamnosus GG. So this particular strain uses the villi and helps in GI disorders. Whereas there's another bacteria, Lactobacillus rhamnosus GR1. It has no benefit to GI, but it aids in vaginal activity. So there are two species, Lactobacillus rhamnosus, but the strains are different and they give you totally different health benefits.
And
You know?
do probiotics have any role in cancer prevention?
Yes, probiotics have a big role in cancer prevention. Because there have been some studies which have shown that just by changing the composition of the intestinal microflora, they can reduce the production of carcinogens, and toxins. Then most of 20% of your global cancers have something or the other to do with microbes, like your H. pylori. Then you have Fusobacterium nucleatum, that's also causes cancer. Then you have your human papilloma virus, that is also Epstein-Barr. So a lot of cancers have something or the other to do with your microbes.
Yes.
And there are a lot of studies which have shown that by just maintaining the balance of the gut flora, by reducing the production of carcinogens, by maintaining or enhancing the gut barrier function, by reducing inflammation, probiotics could play a significant role in cancer.
Okay. So students, do you have any more questions? Any other questions?
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
First of all, your presentation was very wholesome. I have a question about Yakult.
Yes.
Going through its ingredient list, which was very clean, nothing to bother about. But then I gone through its nutritional value,
Yes.
which is showing that it have 11 gram of sugar,
Yes.
which is more than that of Coke.
Yeah.
So I know, and I agree totally that we need sugar. The bacteria need sugar to thrive on, but a person who is diabetic or someone who is very health conscious, are they supposed to take Yakult every day? I mean,
That's a very good question. Very, very good question. Who was this? Can I have your name?
My name is Atima. I'm
Atima.
from
Okay.
India.
Atima, that's a lovely question. Very good question to ask. See, first is why do we add sugar to Yakult? Because you know the fermentation process to make that 6.5 billion bacteria takes about 7 days for fermentation. So imagine just fermenting dahi for 7 days. It becomes so sour, right? So
Yes.
the process of making Yakult is similar to what you make with any fermentation process, and the end product of fermentation here is lactic acid. So it makes the product very sour. So we have to add sugar to improve the taste of the product, and some amount of sugar is needed for growth of the bacteria. So we realized that original Yakult contains a lot of sugar. So we've come out with a Yakult light version, which has only 3 grams of sugar and it has the natural sweetener stevia. So you can consume Yakult light, which is just 3 grams of sugar with stevia, which is a natural sweetener and therefore absolutely safe for everyone. And it also has 30% of your daily requirement of vitamin D and vitamin E. So for health conscious people, they can go for Yakult light, which is a much reduced sugar version of Yakult.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Actually, my dad is diabetic, and I am very health conscious, and I try not to take.
I can't hear you, Atima.
Yes, ma'am.
Now I can hear. Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Thank you for your answer, ma'am. Actually, my dad is diabetic, and I'm so very health conscious about not taking sugars.
Yeah. Yes.
Because I suffer from acne whenever I increase the
sugar.
amount in my diet.
Sugar. So you
Thank
have
you.
Yakult light. Have Yakult light.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Ma'am, I want to ask about the topic where you told about the baby being born. When a baby is born naturally, you told he has a better gut health comparatively to the baby who's born by C-sec.
He said yes.
But ma'am,
Yes.
if we see from the growth perspective, the body of the baby has already fully grown in a span of 9 months.
Yeah. So as soon as your body, as soon as you are born, you're colonized with microbes. Now, bifidobacteria is one such microbe which you require for a healthy digestive system, right? Because it helps to digest your carbohydrates which you get from breast milk. Now, what happens is the minute you have born by C-sec, your bifidobacteria numbers are much lower. So that has a negative influence on your digestive system automatically. Whereas someone who's born vaginally, the lactobacilli and bifidobacteria numbers are much higher. So C-sec babies have more numbers of harmful pathogens like Staphylococci, Clostridium, Enterobacteria, as compared to one who's delivered vaginally, because it is the vaginal microbiome which the child will inherit. So you have more lactobacilli, you have more bifidobacteria when you have a vaginally delivered baby.
Okay, ma'am. That's what I wanted to ask.
Yeah,
How does
yeah.
the type of delivery affects
Yes.
the microbiome?
So when
gut
you are
health?
delivered by C-sec, you have more microbes which are found on the skin, which are found in a hospital environment. Whereas a vaginally delivered baby will have more of the vaginal microbiome of the mother.
Okay, ma'am. And ma'am, a point where you told about the good bacteria which keeps on decreasing as one approaches to old age. So is it
Yes.
is it more of a natural process, or could
It's
it
a
be?
natural phenomenon. It's a natural phenomenon, and it is also triggered by lifestyle. So poor nutrition, stress, and unhealthy lifestyle, all of that also trigger the decrease in the beneficial
So,
bacteria.
ma'am, that's what I wanted to ask. Can it be kept like in an optimum stage if the lifestyle is proper?
Yes, if your lifestyle is proper, if your nutrition is proper, if you get adequate sleep, if you're not exposed to pollutants, if you reduce your stress levels, it can be kept into an optimal state. But that really doesn't happen. And that's why not only probiotics, but even prebiotics are becoming very, very important. Prebiotics are nothing but food for the probiotic bacteria, which allow the growth of probiotic bacteria. So prebiotics are also becoming important, and symbiotics, which are a combination of probiotics and prebiotics, are becoming important only as an intervention to increase the beneficial microbes in the intestine.
So,
That is
ma'am, do you suggest a combination of prebiotic and probiotic as one approaches old age?
Absolutely. And you know, the synergistic effect of the probiotic and prebiotic is very, very important. So whatever you consume, whatever you may consume, a probiotic, a prebiotic, a combination, you must go through the scientific data that is there in that particular, on that particular label. And you must check for the kind of scientific health benefits that you're going to get after consuming that particular product. That becomes important.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
So, ma'am, it was really very revealing that we don't just inherit DNA from our parents; we also inherit microbes.
Microbes, yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
So, Dr. Ram, I must compliment you. Asked me a lot of questions and very relevant questions.
Yeah, ma'am. Actually, I'm a science student myself, so I
Yes.
thought these questions are very relevant.
Yes, very
And
relevant.
and I hope my questions would have thrown some light on various aspects of probiotics.
Absolutely, absolutely. They have,
And it
definitely.
was a pleasure listening to you because none other than you could have answered so many questions.
Thank you
And
so much.
we are so thankful to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Yeah. Dr. Pallavi,
Yes, sir. Okay, sir.
yeah,
Ma'am,
any,
it is a very, very interactive and informative session. And I hope, as Ram sir said, everyone has learned a lot from today's session. It is really a wonderful session, just like bidirectional signaling, various microbial changes, and how can we correlate the beneficial microorganisms with allergy and cancer, NK cell, how lactic acid help to the intestinal microbial flora and fauna. So it is a very, very beneficial session. And ma'am, when we organize any webinar, it is really a team effort, right from thinking to the organization. And really, I want to thank you. You has spared the time from your busy schedule. And now I request Ram sir for a formal vote of thanks.
yeah, Doctor. Thank you, Dr. Pallavi, and really, it was a pleasure having Dr. Nirja with us today, and she enlightened us on this topic. I personally didn't know so much about it. I had a faint clue, but so many things have been discussed, and I think all of us have got a very good idea about what probiotics is. And from the bottom of my heart, I would like to thank Dr. Nirja. And we will look forward to more interactions in the form of industrial visit or maybe a virtual visit. And at the last, I would want her to advise something regarding studies to our students, how they should
Yes.
study.
Studies as in conduct studies or study?
No, no, and in general, how they should focus on their study and what kind of.
So I personally believe in more practical aspect of studying. You know, I believe that if you are studying something, you should be passionate about it. You should try and understand what you're reading rather than just looking at studying for getting those marks. That's also very important in today's day and age. That is equally important. But I believe that whatever you do in life should be your passion. And when passion becomes, your work is more like a hobby for you. So I think you should really, really develop an interest. Now, biotechnology also has different, verticals. I think you have medical biotechnology, you have agricultural biotechnology, you have so many different. It's where your heart lies and what you really want to do. You should understand that for yourself. And none other than you yourself can know what you want to do in life. And when you know what you want to do in life, the path becomes so easy and so much more interesting that you don't even realize that you're working, and it becomes more like play. At least I can talk through experience, but because for me, probiotics, when I entered into this field, initially I had very little interest. But when I started reading and I started learning more about this subject, it became a passion. So today for me, my work is not work, it's literally like play, and I enjoy it so much. So that is my advice to all students, that whatever you do, it should be from your heart, and there's no looking back, and sky will be the limit for all of you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your kind words of wisdom, and we'll remember your words, and I hope the students imbibe the values. Thank you so much. Thank you once again. Thank you. I would
Thank
like
you
to
so
thank the management of ITS, our Honorable Vice Chairman, sir, who has permitted us to conduct this program. I would like to thank Mr. Sood, sir, who has bestowed his presence with us today. And I would like to thank Yakut Denon also for the contributions they have made for this presentation. I would like to thank Dr. Neerja Hajela and Miss Anushka for the coordination. Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much for this excellent opportunity. It was a privilege for us.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay. So. Dr. Pallavi, we can tell the students to go.
हाँ ठीक है ओके सर स्टूडेंट कैन लीव नाउ स्टूडेंट्स कैन लीव नाउ
Okay, ma'am, I think we can talk later because students are leaving very slowly.
yes,
We'll,
they are leaving
okay.
very slowly. Either
Yeah,
they are
we'll end. Dr. Brahm, I think we can end the meeting now. Yeah. And please take the feedback from the students also.
now sir only few students are remaining I think only 20-25
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I have a class at 12 o'clock. So,
okay.
I don't want to. Students can go to the next